Our 1967 Dodge Dart here, she's getting a new torsion bar crossmember and floor pans. This process, absolutely critical, and I've never done it before. Can I get it right? What's it gonna look like when it's done? Guess we'll find out. When I got this car, this is what it looked like. Floor pans were all rotted out. Torsion bar crossmember had been repaired, but was still on the verge of failing. And previously on the channel, we got the windshield out, we got the dash out, moved all the old rot, and I've spent the last 2 weekends off camera prepping the area for fresh metal. How'd I do that? Glad you asked. So my potential overzealousness for getting all the old rot out, I may have added a few extra holes that weren't there before. So fabricated up a couple of patch panels, got them all welded in, took the grinder to our beautiful welds, got it all cleaned up, hit it with a couple of coats of weld through primer, and now should be ready for fresh metal. Installing the torsion bar crossmember is going to be the most important part of this whole process. The placement of the crossmember is important so that your torsion bars actually fit when it's all said and done. I'm starting off just by kind of getting it in place. More of a rough fit than anything. That allows me to get a base for our measurements. Now what I'm going to be using for measurements is combinations of measurements that I took off the car before we cut all the rot out in this frame diagram for the 67 Dodge Dart out of the factory service manual. And the main measurement that I'm looking for is this one right here. This measurement runs from the lower control arm pivot hole on the driver's side to the center of this hole right here in the torsion bar crossmember. When that measurement is even on both sides, that ensures my torsion bar crossmember is in the proper place, both front and back and side to side. So going from the pivot to the edge is 48 and 1/16 inches on this side. Amazingly enough, after our initial fit, this one also is 48 and 1/16. I think it's time to go buy a lottery ticket because that was lucky as hell. So now I just got to get the thing ready to weld in place. That's not as simple as it sounds. One of the reasons that's not going to be as simple as it sounds is we got a pretty good gap here between our torsion bar crossmember and our rocker. And after a little bit of exploration, I figured out that it's our transmission tunnel that's actually pushing the crossmember in this direction. But overall, I just want to kind of mark where my weld spots are going to be so I know where to drill holes here to mount here. I'm doing the same on the underside so I know where to grind off this black coating. That way we can pull this back out and get it prepped. Now I've noticed that some of our tabs, like this guy right here, aren't quite straight, but I think I can get that sorted out with a simple hammer and dolly. Much better. After getting the rest of the tabs straightened out, I'm just gonna hit it with a quick coat, weld through primer. And while that dries, let's see what we can do about the transmission tunnel. Now these 4 holes here are where the original torsion bar crossmember was welded in. Not only are we gonna have to fix those, we're gonna have to figure out why the transmission tunnel is affecting the torsion bar crossmember. To do that, I think I'm just gonna cut it out. With our crossmember dry and our transmission tunnel removed, I can actually drop this in from the top. Now that I'm realizing I don't have to bring it up from the bottom, I can actually take these tabs and bend them down to where they're supposed to be. Another test fit, and I see that my tabs are just a little too high at this point, but that's an easy fix. So with our crossmember clamped in place with vice grips, I can go back, double check my measurements, and make sure we're still where we need to be. So something has definitely moved a little, which I expected it to because we wanted to move the crossmember over. It's now at 48 and 2/16, so it went over a 1/16 of an inch. So this side is at 48 and 1/16. So there's a 1/16 of an inch difference. We'll see if we can't make that up just by moving things around as we clamp stuff down. I also want to double check my length front to back, which is at 34 and 13/16. This side being at 34 and 14/16. It's a 1/16 of an inch too far back. That's nothing a little hammering won't fix. With some off-camera finagling and lots more measuring, you can see we actually got her to move forward a little bit. And as I'm like, oh, sweet, It's in the right spot. We can weld it in. Yeah, forgot to drill holes for the spot welds. Good job, dumbass. So we'll go ahead and remedy that. You sure? One down. 2, 4, 6. One down, 7 to go. I need to take my shoes off. Now with that oversight corrected, a little bit of drilling, a little bit of flap disc to clean up our holes, it'll be time to put it back in. And after all the moving and measuring, and moving and measuring, and moving and measuring, and maybe an extra C-clamp, we're finally ready to get this bad boy burned in. And with that, our cross member is held in place. Now just to fully secure it, then we can move on to floor pans. You know, they're not the prettiest welds on the planet, but they'll do. Totally blaming the weld through primer. Yeah, that's it. Not my welding. Now in getting the car prepped to get our cutout piece of transmission tunnel back in, I am learning that removing factory undercoating, it's dirty work. In getting the piece that we already cut out prepared, I went ahead and took the undercoating on the underside of it off with a wire wheel, and I took the paint off the paint stripping pad. That leaves us with this nice shiny piece of metal ready to go back in. We did the same here on the inside for the edges that we want to weld, though it's hard to be able to see that with all the dust. All the dirt and dust came from stripping off this thick factory undercoating, but that's nothing a vacuum cleaner can't fix, and we'll knock that out before we get to fitting everything in. I have undercoating everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Let's see, blink, how well this is gonna fit in here. Lines up pretty well on the back. It doesn't line up on the front. I noticed when I cut it out initially that this front piece kind of dropped down a little bit. We may have to convince it to come back up to where it's supposed to be. Maybe it'll help if my fat ass is not sitting on it. That was a huge difference. This is gonna make things interesting. Makes a definitive difference on the back side here. Looking a bit better. Now we need to come at it from the other side. With this clamped in place now, you can see kind of how the torsion bar cross member was being pushed over by the transmission tunnel. Because now with the new cross member in, transmission tunnel doesn't quite line up right. I think I'm gonna have to work this metal a little bit to get it to fit right. It's not gonna be perfect, but it'll be in. So after a pretty crappy start, playing around with the welding settings, I had started out with 23 wire, and then ended up switching over to 30 wire, which works a whole lot better. I have a halfway decent start at getting this thing burnt in. Is it placed perfectly? Nope. Do I care? A little bit. Is it decent for my first time? Yes. Yes, it is. After literally hours of working on that floor panel, this is where my real inexperience comes in, is the welding. I've had to play with settings, adjust my heat, learn how to patch the blow-throughs, which we haven't got all of them yet. We finally got this thing put in enough to where I'm ready to actually try and drop in the passenger floor pan. One passenger side floor pan. First thing I want to do is figure out where my spot welds need to go. So I'm going to go on the underside, and I am going to mark around the torsion bar cross member and frame rail so I know where I need to drill my holes. Now that I've got my cross member and my frame rail marked out, I'm going to go ahead and get these holes drilled. The lips on my rails are about 1 inch, so I want to come in about a 1/2 inch, maybe a little less. This Christmas tree ain't bad. It's going through this pretty quick. I expect it to be longer drilling holes. There's probably way too many holes, but yeah, we'll see. Let's see if they line up. Wow. Okay, I know I need this to drop down, but that's a lot. All right, probably gonna just neat this off here. This will allow us to come down a good bit. Like, I'm good here. My holes all seem to line up, but I'm not actually touching the transmission tunnel on this side. We'll fix that with a hammer. Looks like we'll have to trim some off the corner here. We're gonna go underneath again and draw a line so I get an idea of how much is too much to cut off. We'll mark that so we can spot weld there too. Back to the welding table. We'll go ahead and drill out these 4 additional spot weld holes. Before I forget again, hot metal on hand. Ow. Now that that's cut down, let's go ahead and take a look. See how well this fits. So I'm nice and flush right along here, but I'm sticking up here. So we're actually gonna have to take and bend this / pound this down a little bit. Got a little bit of interference right here in this corner as well, which looks like it needs to go that way. Body hammer will take care of that. Now I'm gonna drill a couple holes, put a couple of self-tappers in here. Yeah, the impact is probably a little overkill for putting these in, but it's what I got. Just sucking her down nice and tight. Probably don't need these many screws, but it makes me happy. I was wrong. I need more. Looks like we actually have to take and push this lip out a little bit to meet up with our transmission tunnel. Other than that, oh, we've done it again. I didn't drill holes in this edge here because I didn't know if I needed to trim it back away from the wall once we got everything set in. I'm gonna call it a night because it's already getting late and I don't like to weld right before I go in the house because I don't want to burn the house down, you know, attach the garage and all. So we'll go ahead and get this thing burned in tomorrow. So it's the next day and we've got all of our plug weld holes drilled. I know I've been calling them spot welds, but they're actually plug welds. And we've got these plug weld holes drilled as well. So now, hopefully, it's time to get this thing welded in. And I think I want to start by just tack welding along this edge here to get those to line up nice and tight. Then I'll go ahead and use the cut and butt method that I learned from watching Fitzy's fabrication. From there, we'll tackle our plethora of plug welds, as well as sealing up the seams here and here. Not sure what I'm gonna do about this gap yet. I might fill it with metal, might just put a copper plate behind it and use the old adage, the bigger the glob, the better the job. So with our preliminary tacks and our plug welds all done, all that's left is the cut and butt. Hopefully this part won't be too difficult. So with a little copper backing, I'm able to make this work. I think the gap's a little too big, especially on that curve. I may finish this up just with a lap weld instead of a cut and butt, because I don't like it. My cutoff disc is probably too thick, even though I got a 1/16. The ones I got from Harbor Freight, not so great. I don't like them. The lap weld, definitely working much better. Been slowly stitching my way around one spot weld at a time. And I'll keep going that route until we're done. Then we'll get back and fix that. Oh. My welding helmet's dying. Battery, yes, low. Looks like we get to go with the old-fashioned welding helmet because that last flash, it was bright. I can't see anything out of here. We missed. Let's go get the other light. Wow, I still can't see it, even with the light right there. But it'll be fine. Hey! We didn't f that up. Here we have it. You can definitely tell where I ran multiple runs and it warmed up and they melted right in versus my one stitch at a time. Decent crap. Decent crap. But all in all, not horrible. Now I do need to take a break because I need a new battery for my welding helmet. And it looks like I'm gonna need welding gas again. Why? Because dumbass left the bottle open last night. In the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and take the grinder to all that and see how it cleans up. Well, I might have gotten into a slight disagreement with the angle grinder, and as a result, we're not going to be able to finish the driver's side for the next 48 hours at least. What do you think of my first floor pan job? It's not complete. We still got to get our screw holes filled in. We got to finish here and here, and I still have to fix all of this blow through crap. But unfortunately, that's gonna have to wait for a little while. If you're interested in seeing more about this kick-ass car, check out this playlist right here. I got myself good.
Yeah, I think we need to go to the emergency room.
Yeah, so I caught my knuckle because my dumb ass didn't have my gloves on again. So that's gonna need stitches.